Hello, my name is Brent Jones, and I'm the president and majority owner of Real Water. Southern Nevada is the headquarters of Real Water, and it's also the place that my family and I call home. During these recent difficult financial times, Real Water has been fortunate enough to grow and provide jobs to numerous Southern Nevada families. I personally take pride in this, as we are doing our part to help bring back prosperity to Southern Nevada. Nevada is not just a place of business, it's our community. That's why Real Water also supports charities that make Southern Nevada better. Charities like the UNLV Foundation, Opportunity Village, Help Us Southern Nevada, Hope for Prisoners, and various other worthwhile causes and church groups. So you know that when you purchase Real Water, not only are you buying a premium, locally produced bottled water, you're also helping to build a better community for us all. Thank you for supporting Real Water.
Thank you, Southern Nevada!
Call.
Welcome to Nevada Speaks with Victoria Seaman. I have two really special guests today. I have Brenda Flank, who is the founder and executive director of Conservative Alliance for Community Growth. And I have Randy Voyard, who is on the executive committee of the NAACP. He's also the president of the basic training and of the NAACP. And he's also a candidate for City Council Ward 5. So we're going to have a very interesting show today. First, I want to introduce Brenda Flank and have her tell us a little bit about why she decided to start this incredible outreach, which has affected many schools in Las Vegas. And I'm just really proud of her, and I'm going to let her talk more about it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Victoria, for having us on today. I think probably the first thing I'll do is give a little background about myself. I was born and raised here in Las Vegas. And back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, small town mentality, and I still think that way. After I sold a business about 7 years ago, I thought it was time for me to actually start giving back to my community. And the best way to do that is to actually get involved. I started out with politics, and politics led me back to my old neighborhood. And what an opportunity that was for me to say, what a great opportunity, because I can then give back to my own community that I grew up in. And that's why I started the Conservative Alliance. My politics are conservative. I live a conservative life. And I think that that is something that's missing in the community that I grew up in.
Why do you think that stigma is? I mean, you're a conservative, but yet, most black communities, really don't think that the Republican Party or Conservative Party is a lot of white, rich, old men. And what do you want to say about that stigma of the way people view conservatives or the Republican Party?
I think the reason that people actually see those communities like that is because we're not there.
Right.
The Democrats, the liberals have been in the community. If that's the only thing you see, then that's the only thing you know.
You know. That's so
that's
true.
why it was important for me to get there and share my life, my experience, and say, this is who I am. Don't judge me by the cover that you see. People know that I'm a conservative. They know I'm a Republican. But they're seeing something that the picture is different, because that picture is drawn of Republicans and conservatives as being, they don't like black folks, they don't like this and that.
And a lot of it is the media polarization.
Yes.
It's not necessarily the views of most people.
Right. So if they don't see you, know you, then they've already drawn a conclusion about who you are and what you stand for. And that's what we need to do, is we need to show ourselves for who we are. No longer let someone else tell your story. I want to tell my story. This is who I am. This is what I stand for. And it's amazing how many people just in conversation, they agree with. We have a lot of things that are in common, but they don't know it if they never have a chance to have that conversation.
And that's been a big problem within the Republican Party, is that
Right.
they haven't reached out the way the Democrats have, because like you say, in my time walking the district, talking to Democrats, we agreed on more things than we actually
not.
disagreed.
Exactly.
And they supported me because, education is really the key. And like you, I did the same thing. I've gone out to my community and actually spoken to people and reached out to all sides of the aisle, every single party or affiliation.
And that's one of the things that we do. We started out as an outreach organization, but it's more about community engagement rather than outreach, because I think that the word outreach kind of implies that we're out there trying to do something that there's some type of ulterior motive behind it. Outreach, as if you want to bring them in for something. I do things because it's the right thing to do. I go into my community because it's
because you want
important.
to,
right?
Because you want to, and I want to talk about that, because you've done some amazing things. I've been involved in your group somewhat, and I'm just amazed at how you've gone into the different schools and talk about the schools that you've gone into and what you've done for them.
Right. We talk about the things that are important. We talk about education. We go into the schools. We engage with teachers and principals and things like that, and then we reach the kids. We're in the classroom, they see us. We don't, of course, go in there talking about politics.
No,
that is not
not
a conversation that
but the
I ever have.
Constitution Day and
right, we talk about the
that
things that are important, because kids grow up with these misconceptions about life. They grow up with these misconceptions about our country and about freedom and liberty. They don't understand the basics of things that are actually their foundation.
Well, we've taken civics out of the education, but I think there was a bill, or we brought it back now. But
well, that's good, because I have another project that I'd like to bring before the assembly by We'll talk.
You better
about
do it
that.
quick.
Well, no, not this year. We're not.
Okay, you're not ready for this year.
Right. But we do have a project that I would like to set something up with you and some fellow
I would love that,
and just talk about this initiative that I'd like to get started with. But everything, I believe, starts with our liberty and our freedom in this country, because without that, we have nothing.
Absolutely.
And we look at the sovereignty of our nation. Without that, we are no longer Americans. Who are we if we can't if we can't have our borders, if we can't have our nation's sovereignty protected? We're just like everybody else. And every country has their own identity, and it's important that we keep ours, like everybody wants to keep theirs. Yeah. So why is there a conversation about it?
Right, and Randy, you were actually born in Haiti.
No, I was born in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn. Your parents are from Haiti. That's correct. Randy was born in Brooklyn, and his parents are from Haiti. And I just would like you to share some of the stories that your family has experienced, and why liberty and you being a conservative as well. How did you come to this, and why is it so important for you?
Well, my parents, they immigrated here back in the 60s, and my dad was in the military, and I didn't grow up in Haiti. I was there when I was little for a while, but I don't remember any of that. But I just remember some of the things that came about, and if you look into its history, it was a very tumultuous past, especially with when Baby Doc came to power. Papa Doc, the dad, and Baby Doc, who died recently after going back to Haiti. And you look at a country that it was the first successful slave revolt. It became its own real nation. We're going back to the 19th century, early part. And it's something that scared a lot of Americans because slavery was still going on here. And the revolution that happened there during the Napoleonic Wars and the way it led up to the Louisiana Purchase, it affected America as well, because Napoleon had to get rid of that land. He couldn't keep the fight up. They lost that colony. Haiti became a free country. You had a lot of potential there. And then when you look at its history as it's come through, you look at the effect that what just a few people in power could do to a nation. And you could put the blame anywhere you want, But when you look at who's fed on the money that's gone into that country, and you see who's benefited from it, it's almost as if the people there don't exist. And why is that? There seems to be a notion, not just there, but in any country, where people believe that the power structure is independent of them, that somehow they are just all victims and subjects of whoever has money and power. And there's a willingness to acquiesce to it. And my family, my mother's got her own story. I'm not going to speak for her, but I just know I'm glad that she came here, because that gave us a whole other paradigm to think about people in power and power structures and your ability to make your decisions in your own life. The United States has its own history of people who've grown up in Appalachia and people who've grown up in the inner city and people who've grown up in poor areas. There are tons of success stories because there was always a chance to say, I can actually move. I can go somewhere else.
Right.
The old adage of go west, young man, that opened the doors for people who were living in a life of misery, said, you know what, I don't like it here. And it doesn't look like I've got a shot here. But this country was open for them to leave and go somewhere else and try to form their fortunes somewhere else. In a lot of other countries, you don't have that option.
You don't have that freedom.
You try to build a business, the first thing that's knocking on your door is somebody wanting what you just made.
Yes.
And so what's the sense of trying to make any more when all that's going to happen is you get it taken from you. And so, the Makuts that used to be divided as private police, they're still around. They still have their cabals that are in there. It's very tight-knit, but you're looking at a dynamic that happens in almost any third world country. You're looking at a dynamic that happens anywhere where you've got the big man in power and all the little people that hope that he's not pissed off with them and that hope that maybe they could be friends with him. But no one thinks that they've got enough control over their life to change anything.
And they really don't.
They really don't. Try going to Burma and saying, hey, let's stop shipping this heroin and all these drugs. Hey, why don't we build... No, you're not going to hear that.
Right.
You might utter it, and that'll be the last thing you say.
Exactly.
And here in this country, I think we just we do take it for granted.
Well,
most people just don't care.
And that's what I want to talk to you, because a lot of these young people, they are saying, America is a terrible country where we've been colonized, and you hear this and you think they probably have no idea about what goes on in other countries, because this is truly the best nation in the world. It's not perfect, but it's the
thing is, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
The problem I think a lot of people try to make it seem is as though because there's something wrong with something, there's something wrong with everything.
Right.
And that's a lie. I'm not perfect. I don't know anyone who is.
Right.
I can pick my flaws on 20 fingers, and there's somebody else who can pick them on 80 fingers. There's just a lot of things not right about you. But does that mean you don't deserve to exist or you don't deserve to call your own shots? I don't think that's a problem. I don't think that's right. It's not true, because it kind of flies in the face of any notion of you being your own person. And when you hear people talk, like with the Constitution Day lectures that Brenda's been putting on, and I've been active in helping her with that, you put the platform out there. And some people will tell you it's most corrupt, it's most racist, the Constitution was written for all white. I said, I don't care. Why? Because I believe I have the right to speak freely.
That's correct.
And I don't care who said it. I agree with them. I do have the right to speak freely. And I will. And so for people who want to make it sound as if though because you may have a problem with the history of the past of what someone else said, if they were right, they were right. And if you're benefiting from it, then just be glad they said it, in spite of whatever other circumstances may have been in the context.
One of the things about that, too, that just really gets me, they are constantly bringing up the fact that we were enslaved. Well, I want you to name some civilization somewhere, anywhere, that has never been. At some point in time, there has been slaves all the time. There are slaves in this world today.
That's correct.
So what's your point?
Yeah. And
that's correct.
I think we forget, Boko Haram is out there with, they've got a marketing campaign. They're selling slaves right now as we speak.
Exactly.
And if people forget, freedom is the strange thing. Freedom's the weird part in history. When you look at the way most wars were fought, what happened to people who were beaten? They were killed or enslaved.
Exactly.
And that happened all the way
Absolutely.
up. That happens now.
Yes.
So the notion that, we've got to pass, well, join the club. Welcome to the human race.
Yes.
The thing is, as a country, we know it's wrong. But you still have human traffickers coming here. You still have prostitution, which is essentially chattel slavery with women or men or whatever.
All over the world,
And so-
including here.
I think it, and for people who would, they want to condemn this country and say it's the most racist, that means everywhere else is less racist. If that's the case, Let's start moving.
But nobody's moving.
Why, exactly. Why are you still here is my question.
And the only place you see people arguing over civil rights, where they have rights as an individual that are supposed to be respected by their government, it's here.
Because you have the right to do that, and you don't in most other countries.
The whole civil rights movement was based on what? The fact that we have constitutional rights that weren't being respected by the government and other people around us.
Right.
That's civil rights. It wasn't different rights. Nobody said we want another right. No, the civil rights were the ones we were supposed to have, that were supposed to be respected under the Constitution.
And
that's
thank
what
God,
the fight was about.
Exactly, and thank God we do have the Constitution, because if you think back to before 1787, we could still be living as slaves. If that
Correct.
Constitution had not been written that it was for all the people, equal rights for all, it's a matter of fact that it was men that actually did not adhere to the Constitution. That's why slavery continued. That's
correct.
why there was a fight. That's why there was a war. So it is about man, and the people don't understand the purpose of the Constitution. Yes, it was set out that these rights are to be protected. They're not granted. You already have those rights. Constitution protects that. And that's what's missing in other countries. They don't have that document that says these rights are protected. They have someone else that's in power that determines, well, maybe, maybe not. Maybe we'll respect your right as a human being to be able to speak freely, to move freely, to make decisions on your own.
Yeah.
That's what makes us as Americans special, exceptional, because we have what no other country has. And kids need to start to understand that at an early age, because they'll grow up 16, 18, 20, 30, 40, and not know what it is. And they have all these ideas in their head that they're supposed to get something from someone else or from someone where else, where it's really about you. It's about the individual.
And
that's
you've
what's
started
important.
this program with some of the schools where you have a Constitution lecture and also a contest. Tell us about those contests, because that's an amazing program to get kids to think about the Constitution.
To start thinking about it. Fifth grade as a perfect level to start talking to kids about things that are really important, because when they get older, they've already have these ideas and things that are set in their minds, and then it's about changing things. So we look at the Constitution lecture series that we provide for fifth grade classrooms as an opportunity to plant seeds of liberty. That's what I call it. I want the kids to start thinking about their freedom and their liberty, where it comes from and why it's important, and the value and the importance of the Constitution, which protects those rights that are given by God, not by man. So we go into the classrooms and we talk about some of the history, how we got to where we're at. We talk about King George, the tyranny of the crown, and why we declared our independence, and the importance of the Constitution. So after the lectures are done, we have the kids participate in a essay contest. And we want them to write about what the Constitution means to me, because we want to make it personal. It's important that they understand that it's about them first. And if they don't understand or see the value in it, they won't respect it or appreciate it as they grow older. So that's where we're at. They participate, and we have some great prizes that we give to the kids to show appreciation for their efforts. It is a work in progress. And initially, 5 years ago when we started this, it was kind of discouraging because the kids weren't really getting the point. But we did realize later that, yes, they are understanding that. And that's why we call it the Seeds of Liberty, because we're planting those little things, just, hearing things. At this age, you can plant them. When they're 16, it's a little bit harder, there's a little bit more
to get their concentration
right.
and get involved in it. And so you started this 5 years ago, and what kind of how since the inception of it, what kind of results have you seen? Like you just mentioned, you touched on it, but
last year we spoke, I would say, between 500 and 600 kids that we actually were in the classroom that we got our message out to. We think that there is some things we're actually planting those seeds, like I said. We can't necessarily say, because once those kids move on from 5th grade, we don't have that contact with them anymore. And that's why it's important that we continue to have these
But
programs.
do you see the essays becoming more, like you see the
different kids every year.
Different
Oh,
kids every
okay,
year.
okay.
That's the thing. So we can only see what we have before us at this
but
time.
they're
by the
excited
end of the
about it,
school
and
year.
most of the kids participate.
Yes, we do have, as far as that kind of feedback, yes. And with the efforts that Randy has that's ongoing with particular schools, he gets to see the feedback from the start of the school year to the end of the school year. But we're really hopeful. We know that we're having an impact on these kids. We have an opportunity at the end of the school year to engage with the parents, talk to them about their kids, and give them some praise and encourage them to continue to learn and to be motivated about learning more about our Constitution and our great country. Because it is that. We don't want kids to grow up thinking, oh my God, what a horrible place we live in. Because it's not. So starting at 5th grade, we embrace them, and that's what we're trying to do, is set them on the right path to becoming good Americans.
Well, you know, a lot of people forget freedom is a pretty abstract concept. It's like space. And when you never form the idea of how to make an abstraction mean something to you, it doesn't mean anything to you. And when you ask people what it is, they kind of think of things that they're allowed to do, or things that they can buy, or the ways that they can act, or they think it means I can do what I want, or
Right.
But it means so much more than that. It means that you get to choose how you want to be, what kind of person you want to be. And the difference between people and animals, just amongst the variety of differences, is every day you wake up, you can decide what kind of person you're going to be. You can totally violate your nature and your conscience, or you can choose to go anywhere in between the extremes of
It's about
your mind.
opportunity in this country.
Yeah, it's about who are you,
Yeah.
and the ability to decide who you're going to be. And we live in a republic. We use a democratic process where people are expected to step up to the plate to govern their own lives. It's work. It's a lot of work. And it's easier in some countries if somebody's always telling you what to do. It really cuts down on the number of choices you've got to make. It makes things a lot simpler. But it also really limits you as a person, as a human being. And that's the biggest thing, the biggest dimension, I think, that we bring to the table when we're talking about the Constitution and the principles embodied from the Declaration of Independence. The whole point is, this is your life. It's yours. You're responsible for it. You got to answer for it. The choices you make are going to be yours. So here's your shot.
And what are you going to
What are you
do,
gonna
with,
do
it?
with it?
Right. What are you going to do
And
with it?
you see, and for a lot of kids, it's a new door, because don't forget, they live at home. They're not.
Yeah.
These things aren't going to matter until they're adults.
Right.
And
lately we've seen kind of an expansion of government, which is really in contradiction of our Constitution. And I just want to have you touch a little bit about that, of how we've seen this expansion of government. And it just really is in contradiction of what we were founded upon.
Right. When you think about the founding of our country and how we got to that place where we declared our independence, not everybody was for that.
Right.
A majority of the people were not, yes, we got to declare our independence. No, there was, I'd like to call them a small band of brothers. You think about the Sons of Liberty and the rest of them that were willing to risk it all. They say about a third was all for it. About a third was, I don't care. And the other third were content with that blanket.
Kind of
from
like
the crown.
today.
Exactly. So we all have to make a decision.
Yeah.
What side are we going to be on? Where are we going to stand when it comes to our liberty? And that's what happened in 1776 when we declared our independence. So not everybody's going to be on board. And I tell a lot of people, you can thank me later because I'm willing to stand for it.
You know.
and you can thank me later. So,
And, you know, when you talk about it, every dictator has his friends, his cadre. There's always a group of people that benefit from whoever's in power. It doesn't matter. And they will fight to the tooth and nail. They learn how to function within that system, and they're content with it. You know, they get the contract. Hey, the king's good to me. Government's good to me. They get the check. They get the exclusive deal. Hey, it's fine by me. I don't see what the problem is. And that's fine. The problem is when everyone else who isn't fine can't make the choice to do something else.
Very true.
And that's where the fight is.
And the more
That's where-
complacent
Yeah.
a group of people become, we start to lose our liberties.
Yeah. And one thing I've noticed, I was talking to a friend of mine, he's kind of more on the libertarian side. I don't want to bother with this. We should just stay out of the business. I said, that's great. That's a nice world you live in, where you think if you leave someone else alone, they'll leave you alone. I used to think that too. I never cared much about politics because I just wanted to go to work. I was told, work hard, go to school, save your money, get a family, you'll have a good life. This is the place to do it. This country's great. No one's going to come and take your stuff like they did back home. All right. But that's not true.
That's not.
As soon as I moved out of New York and I started coming home with more money in my paycheck because I moved to Memphis after I went to Virginia, then to Memphis, they didn't have a state income tax at the time. So I was getting paid just $1 more, but I was coming home with a lot more money in my check. And I was like, what's going on here? I said, where is some money that I should have gotten before? And then that's when I started paying attention to state income taxes and started wondering, what am I getting for my money? And I started wondering, who's deciding to spend this money of mine?
Love that.
Because when I get paid, I know what I want to do with the money. I know what friends I want to go out with. I know who I want to help. But when I come home with less money, I don't even have those choices as options. So I made a concerted effort to move to places only. When I started contracting, hey, we got a job in Indiana, we got a job in Jersey, we got a job. No, that's all right. You have a job in a tax-free state. I went back to Virginia. I went to Pennsylvania. The taxes were lower when I was living there. They wound up raising them. Fortunately, I was out before then. Then I went to Washington State. No state income tax there. Then I came here. No state income tax here. And that was always a draw for me. For some people, it doesn't matter. I was always told, don't worry.
Oh, no, it was
You'll
a
make
draw
the
for
money.
me, too.
Okay, so there you go. And it's a draw for a lot of businesses also.
Absolutely.
Because it makes sense.
It does make sense. And there are certain states that you simply cannot do business in because it's not affordable.
I would qualify that saying, yeah, you can't do business in them unless you're connected. Because when you're connected, you get the exclusions, you get the exemptions, you get the hookups, and then you become one of the friends of the power structure there that benefits by it. And that's the conflict I think a lot of people have when they start trying to understand the things that are wrong with America with the things that are right with America. When people start corrupting this system and they benefit by it, people who don't know how it works don't have a standard of judging what their actions are like. They think, oh, well, if you get hooked up with business and everybody gets hooked up, it's all corrupt. There's no free market. Well, they're right. There is no free market when it comes to that.
You're absolutely right.
But if you know the basis for it, you say there's supposed to be one, and you start realizing where everything is going wrong, where people are getting hooked up with exclusive contracts, where people are getting exemptions just for that industry, where they're getting subsidies just for that industry, where it's only those friends, where this, it's ridiculous. It's not a free market. And once you start moving away from me having an equal chance to you, of setting up the same business, well, then now we're not talking free market. Now we're talking about a government where other people are deciding whether or not you're going to make it.
Exactly, and not only that, you wind up being the one to pay for all those little trinkets and goodies that those guys that you elected to represent you, that are only there to represent their friends, you're the one that's wind up paying for all those little cookies and things, and you wind up with the crumbs. That's what
Eventually, you
people
run out
are
of
not
other people's money.
Exactly.
Is where the
People-
saying came from.
And
Perhaps people are coming to some realization that,
I think as, the economy has hit a lot of people pretty hard, they've become a lot more aware of, if I had this money that's taken out of my check with me now, that would have covered the increase in gas expenses. But no, it didn't. So you had a lot of people closing up shop. It just got more expensive to do business. But the whole time you're wondering, how is it that other people are guaranteed raises? How is it other people are guaranteed benefits and I'm not? How is this possible that 4 people can decide to spend over $50 million on a soccer stadium when I don't even play soccer?
Well,
I have
and we're
other
going to talk about that in a minute. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about that soccer stadium because we have good news about that.
You're listening to RadioTribune.com.
On RadioTribune.com, you'll
Are you feeling sluggish, old, and tired? It could be because your body is dehydrated on a cellular level. Most purified waters are acidic and as a result may be rejected by your body. But it doesn't have to be that way. Real water is different. It is beyond alkalinity. Real water is infused with negative ions for ultra-cellular hydration. You will immediately notice the smooth, clean taste as you start hydrating the minute it hits your mouth. Real water. You will taste and feel this difference.